you could go through a bit about those kind of productivity hacks or lessons of, even, I know you focus a lot on engineering, but I think it even has a pretty broad applicability for anyone in the early career, where when you're seeing kind of these insurmountable problems, like how to step back and start to get yourself into a flow state to attack the underlying problem, how that can help your career.
Well, I think actually programming sort of teaches you this mindset. That's why I think it's such a good idea for everybody to study a little bit of programming, whether that's going to be part of their job or not, because I think you do build this kind of discipline of, okay, if things don't work, how do I kind of break it down? How do I divide and conquer? How do I examine my assumptions? Because half the time, what's gone wrong is some assumption you made without realizing. And really just sort of methodically revisiting your assumptions to figure out from first principles what's going on. And so I think that that's like a toolkit that just studying computer science undergrad gave me. But I think that lesson, like watching that happen at Netscape, I guess it also made me realize that you can't take for granted like in college, your problem sets have a right and wrong answer. You can take for granted that your professors, your TAs, they know what they're doing. They've posed you something that has a right and a wrong, and you're just trying to come as close as possible to doing what they told you to do.
Like, you've got this kind of thing of like, oh, it always goes like this. And then sometimes doesn't always go exactly like that when you get to that next job, right?
So instead of just kind of taking the work and kind of beavering away at it, and if it's not working and you get stuck, like just assume that you're wrong and the authority figure knows better and there must be a solution to your homework, or wouldn't be given his homework. It's sort of like, you have to have the willingness to question your priors, to question the assumptions, and to have a rapport and a relationship and an empowerment that you can question your boss or your PM, right? And be like, is this really right? And I think it's one of the things that's sort of unique about working in the tech industry, actually, is that what good leadership in the tech industry looks like is not to stifle or silence dissent, is not to get people to sort of efficiently take orders, but is actually to kind of have the humility that we're just trying to figure it out, and someone working on the problem may spot an issue that someone who's sitting at the 30,000 foot level as a director or a VP, like I have a span of control, a span of view, like a selection of inputs, like I'm miles and miles wide. I may know some things that an engineer on the ground doesn't. Like I may understand that profitability is more important right now than revenue growth, and be able to give marching orders because I have that understanding.
I know you talk a little bit about this, about suggestions for startups, but it's just that to have, most people don't do a lot of tight feedback when you're a startup with your customer, but the tighter you can create that loop, in a sense,
That's right.
That's where your inherent advantage, like the Christensen, innovation gap, right? Is that
Totally.
startup, you have the ability to keep churning and iterating much faster than the longer chain that a larger company doesn't.
Totally. And this is yet another way that sort of work is unlike school. Like the reason your manager doesn't have the answers is not because the VP has answers, is because your whole company may not have the answers. It's because you're trying to discover answers from the world around you. And you have hypotheses, you're constantly testing your hypotheses, but they could all be wrong, or they could be right in January of 2022 and wrong by December, right? Because the market has changed. So the concept of how data driven can you be, and how fast can you get those feedback loops, and how fast can you update your assumptions about the world, is essential for it. Like it's essential for a startup, like it's essential for a product. Like a new product line is going to do this or this based on how many reps you get, how fast you can get those feedback loops rolling. That's true for a startup too, in terms of its growth or flatlining. It's also the same thing for a human being in a career. Like when you think about like starting your career as a software engineer or a product manager or a designer, or any other marketing, whatever, any function where you sort of start, the faster you get feedback loops, the faster your own skills, the faster you'll learn how to do your job, get out of your comfort zone, try things, figure out what works, what doesn't, consolidate those into what you do know. Now you can try harder things based on the stuff you figured out. And again, the growth of your own skill and capacity can be very, very steep with rapid feedback loops, or very, very shallow if you're doing the same thing every day and not learning something new.
Again, you might be more successful short term of just like, I can head down and bash this out, but over the long term, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up much farther away.
Yeah, If you just sort of blindly followed the orders and didn't sort of get in the head of who it was for and why you were doing it, you built the wrong thing. Like, was that the right outcome? Maybe not. So no, I emphatically agree with that. And, and I also think, I actually teach a class. I co-teach a class with a good friend at Stanford every fall called Effective Leadership in High Tech. I think what it really is soft skills for CS majors, and we teach it to seniors and co-terms. And like, why do we need to teach leadership skills to college students? Because you're going to employ them on day one. It turns out the skills, the good leadership skills, are basically good teammate skills, good collaboration skills, good communication skills, conflict resolution. We teach conflict resolution. We teach feedback. We teach how to influence other people, because turns out, like, in tech, how do decisions get made? It's not just like the person with authority knowing everything, right? Like, we try to collect ideas from the groups. So even as a brand new engineer in a team where you're the most junior person, if you have a great idea, if you're able to make your case, your idea can get, can get momentum. I think there's this mysterious idea of like, what does it mean to be a thought leader? Well, it just means to have good ideas and to be able to persuade other people that they want to go along with them.
Growth is the key, right? That's, as a young professional, that's where I think you even put in a blog post earlier too, was that you even if you come from, say, not as privileged a community as, say, Stanford, but if you can showcase to employers that, okay, I started out in QA because I didn't have the best.
That's who was recruiting at my college,
right? And then I moved over to software engineer, and then I moved over to the HQ side. So that's really the kind of key points that you can make and take control in your career.
And if you have that motivation, you have that dream, you have a specific thing you want to pursue, my God, go pursue it. But I got so sick and tired as a teenager of like, they trot out these celebrities and the celebrities would say, follow your passion. And I'm like, well, you're a celebrity because you had a passion. Good for you. Like, that's useless to me. Like, you don't need to give me the courage to follow my passion. I don't have a passion. How do I discover a passion? But in terms of like career goal and path, if you don't know what the ultimate destination is, what the ultimate achievement unlock is, then you can never go run optimizing for your growth. Both because like it's intrinsically satisfying, like you satisfy your curiosity, you become capable of more things, you will earn more in the tech industry if you become more capable, if you work at the same company, because we tend to reward growth. But like, the primary motivator doesn't need to be economic. It just needs to be whatever skill and capacity you have, you expand that so that you can do more and more. And then whatever motivations or goals you figure out down the line, because it may take you till your 30s or 40s to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. By the time you get there, you will have so much capacity that you can go achieve any darn goal you want to. And so to me, my advice to my students is always grow, optimize for growth. And that means going to a company that's growing, because that's where, and the way you grow is by doing work, is by doing stuff and learning from it.